Hello and welcome back to the Plant Powered Athlete Podcast. I am your host, Robert Cheeke, and I have a phenomenal guest today. My guest today is a longtime friend, a longtime vegan, an athlete, an entrepreneur, an all-around great guy, and someone I have to say who has the best arms of anyone that I know in the vegan movement. I've always been jealous and envious of his arms, his strength. He's a fellow vegan athlete as well. Roger Smith, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me, Robert. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you and your audience. How are you?
Yeah. So happy to have you here on the Plant Powered Athlete Podcast. I know you're in Houston, Texas these days, but you've got roots in Panama, New York City, some perhaps some other places. Can you take us back and tell us your vegan story? Because you've been vegan for a long time, and you're also really
Yeah.
strong, muscular, and an entrepreneur. And I want to figure out where this all started. So if you can take us back, tell us
Yeah.
your powered athlete story and give us some context, I think that would be really helpful for our audience.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for the opportunity. Actually, before I even go there, congratulations on this project. It was a long time coming. You needed a podcast a long time ago, but yeah. So congratulations on this. So yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about my background for those that don't know me. Like Robert said, I'm originally from Panama. That's why you hear a little slightly accent on me. Uh, and I was born there in my 20s. So that kind of gives us my age a little bit also. I'm in my mid 40s, actually. I'm 45, about to turn 46 this year. So I moved to the States. But going back to my earliest beginning, I wasn't born a vegan. And I think it's one of those things that a lot of us will wish it would have been that way. So I turned vegan when I was 22. I want to say I was 22 or 23, around that age. So that was around 2004, no, 2002, 2003. I turned vegan, and the reason why I turned vegan was initially was kind of curiosity. So I saw a good friend of mine that back in those days, that you don't used to call it vegan, right? He used to be vegan, or he is vegan or plant-based for the most part. And I was kind of curious why when we used to get together, he wasn't really participating or eating any of the food that most of us were eating, pizza, burger back in those days. There were really no consciousness when it comes down to eating the proper food, right? So I was kind of curious about why he wasn't. And in long story short, after like me harassing this guy for long, like, hey, why are you not eating this? What's going on with our food? He kind of explained to me that he just basically, he went plant based or he went vegan. And I was like, vegan? Like, what is that? So he was kind of basically encouraged me to do some research on what actually the plant based movement back then, or the veganism or vegetarian meant, because he felt like he was kind of tired of like explaining people what vegan was back then, and nobody was kind of listening. Everybody was just like, oh yeah, it was mocking him. It was a lot of bullying back in those days. So I kind of started researching, right? And then he actually brought up vegetarianism or veganism back then from a food health standpoint, mostly. And to me, that was fine. But since I was young, I was an athlete, like Robert said, I always played sport. Um, One of our biggest passion is basketball, as Robert known, and he likes that well as well. Um, he used to play ball a lot, so I really was pretty healthy, running around, very athletic. I always used to dunk the ball and do all these different things, even though I'm 6'2", which in Panama is considered tall, but when I came to America, I was like, I'm short. I'm a point guard, so 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 anyway, so I kind of started researching more about it, and I find out that there was an animal warfare aspect of this whole movement, and that to me was kind of what led me to remain vegan. So when I saw different type of videos that were showing all what happened in the slaughterhouses and all the different things, I was like, okay, well, I'm definitely not eating animal anymore. So that's when I actually made the switch. So it happens to me maybe I want to say maybe like between 6 to 8 months from the day that I get acquainted with the whole plant based movement, and and yeah, and I've been vegan since. So What triggered that was watching all these different type of content back in those days when the internet was actually just coming out, watching all these different type of content, and then that actually was what that made me kind of went vegan, stay vegan for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
So,
Roger,
yeah.
did you have any concerns in those early days about getting enough protein, building your body? I mean, obviously, you're very fit and strong. You've competed in bodybuilding and fitness competitions. We'll talk about that a little bit
Yeah.
later. I've
Yeah.
already mentioned people, you've got these big muscular arms. You and I have been on a vegan cruise together and I trained together in the gym. And I'm like, man, I wish I had arms like that guy. But did you have any concerns, or did people in your life have concerns about your health or wellness or whether you could build your body with plants, or was it no problem from the beginning? What was that experience like for you?
No, that's a great question because there was a lot of feedback, a lot of challenges when you go vegan on an early age of your life, or at any stage of your life, pretty much. But specifically at that time, there was not a lot of information. So we're talking about from a different country, right? So there was not really any information at all. So most of the information was created here up north, Canada, US, maybe Mexico, probably, and we're trying to get that information all the way to the south, but there was no information whatsoever. So when people don't know about it, it's the first thing is rejection. What's going on? What's going to happen? So yeah, I did get a lot of flags for going vegan. Specifically, yeah, protein was one of the topic, but the most people used to like, what are you going to eat? That's what always they ask me, like, what are you going to eat? Like, meaning for me, it's kind of a mind body in that question, because basically it's like, does meat is the only thing that people eat? Like, if you look at people's overall plates, meat is one component of their food, but they have a couple other things that it goes into that plate. So it was kind of interesting that people associated food only with meat. So yes, I was getting a lot of questions with, "Oh, what are you going to eat?" And actually, myself, I didn't know what was going to happen. Like, I didn't know what I was going to eat. The only thing I knew that I was straightforward with, it was, I'm not going back to eating meat. So now I have to figure it out what I'm going to eat. So that was my next question, right? So I started asking questions. And back then, see, was not a lot of options. Mostly my diet was like 90% fruit, right, Robert? Like 90% fruit, like bananas. I used to eat a lot of bananas. So really, the banana girl, she was old school to me. I was like Roger the banana guy because bananas were cheap. Like, you used to buy like 10 bananas for 10 cents, like for 10 cents. So I can get like plenty of bananas. So I would use a lot of banana. And then I first got introduced into like cooked meals when I met Rastafarians. So Rastafarians eat, like, they call it ital, which is basically just eat like vegan food, kind of like our bodybuilder. So yeah, so I got introduced to food, and then that's when the first time I ate like tofu and rice and beans and other different type of things. But for the most part, my diet was like fruits, maybe rice, beans, and a lot of vegetables, tomatoes, lettuce, um, any type of vegetable, cucumbers, and so on and so forth. So since there was not a lot of options, I keep it simple. So that was a benefit because my diet was very simple, and I wasn't eating a lot of junk food or basically a lot of processed food. I think most processed I was eating was like soy milk, because that was the only options that we found: soy meal or maybe rice meal. So we replaced the dairy with rice meal, and mostly fruit. So eating that is fine, but a lot of people be like, "No, you need protein, you need protein, you need this, you need that." So there was a lot of question when it comes down to it. So I was just have to be able to find the right answers. How do I find the right food to be able to feed myself? So yes, I did struggle at the beginning with finding the proper combination of food at the beginning, and then eating enough calories was also another issue that I dealt with, because I was not eating at all, because I really rely on my family a lot for when it comes down to eating, because I was living with my parents back in those days. So I relied a lot on what they consume, what they buy, and what they're cooking. So once I start getting a little bit of my freedom and growing and growing on my own personality, then I started kind of understanding more of the different aspects, and I started kind of branching out. But at the beginning, yes, I did struggle because, like I said, I relied a lot on them, and a lot of less. Now we wasn't a lot of information, so I didn't know. So I had to find a way to get the proper food. So I would just stick to the basic, fruits and vegetables and
Yeah.
grains.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. I even wrote that down.
Yeah.
You tend to have a healthier diet with fewer options, so to speak, because you go back
Right.
to rice and beans and corn and potatoes and sweet potatoes and
Right.
tropical fruits and bananas and all the stuff you have access to. And
Right.
really, you also made a good point when people were asking, like, what do you eat? When really a lot of the mainstream eats the same five animals over and over and over. They're just eating the same five
Right.
animals. And
Right.
and then mixing up sometimes their milk and their eggs with those meals, and then a
Right.
few vegetables, a few fruits here and there. But
Right.
what you did was you took out those animals from your diet and you replaced them with the staples that we know to be
Right.
the healthiest foods for the longest living populations, things like beans of all types and rice and vegetables and fruits. And they're also the foods that are the lowest calories and
Right. Exactly.
provide the most nutrition. So they don't contribute very much to obesity, but they contribute to long lasting health. And so keeping it simple is really part of the key. So how
Yeah.
did your diet change when you
Mhm.
got to the US? And all of a sudden, I mean, you're from Panama. You don't have access to all the milkshake, the burgers, the pizzas, all the vegan stuff.
Yeah.
I think, if I recall, you went to New York, which is one of the vegan capitals of
No.
the world. You had access to everything. Uh,
Exactly.
is that how the muscles grew? once you
So yeah, so that's a good segue. So so yes, so I went from, like you mentioned, right? I went from Panama. There was not a lot of option back then. Now, if we talk about Panama now, that's a completely different story. So we can talk that for a different conversation. But so I moved to New York, and now it was like I got introduced just from a high level, because when I moved in, my family members were not vegan. So they're at the same time, they don't really know much about it. They just heard, oh yeah, there's a vegan place over there that sells pizza. You want to check it out? Like, vegan pizza? Oh yeah, sure. Let's go. Let's go. Like, this something like vegan pizza. And then I got introduced to quite a few things during that time, which is great, because I remember I came from not having no options to now it's like there's a plethora of things that you can possibly eat. Although, go back to what you said, eating basic have a lot of advantage, right? Eating just the basic staple food. So yeah, moved to New York, have a lot of options, and but actually, I stayed in New York for a short period of time. It wasn't a real long time, so I can explore all the different food. I actually went back to New York, and that's when I actually was introduced to Champs, all the different great places to eat. But when I moved to Texas, is when I started living myself, and I got to see all these different options, even though it wasn't as much as, let's say, New York or Portland, where you're familiar with. Um, I still was able to go to the Whole Food or Sprout or Trader Joe's, all these different places that have like just sections of plant-based things. And that was even 20 years ago. Even still the movement was big, but it wasn't as big, but it was bigger than what I was accustomed, right? So for me, it was a big step. So everybody was like, oh yeah, it's so easy to be vegan when you have so many options. And like in the US, and I'll tell my international friends, like, well, you having an option is great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say there's nothing wrong with it, but eating the basic is probably better for you. So not having a lot of options sometimes is good, because you stay eating the basic food, which allows you to have a healthier lifestyle, in my opinion. So for me, actually, it's like, yeah, it's great. Yeah, we can go eat a different type of restaurant, have a different type of options. But hey, if you have the options to stay basic, because you're gonna get tired of eating X, Y, and Z meals for a period of time. Like how much can you go out and eat at a restaurant? Like you can do that every now and then, but you're not gonna do it every day. So yeah, I guess just knowing that you have the options to go to those places is great. But just a lot of these things that you can consume, you can just make it your own self too. No, it's just take time. But yes, going back to the question, like I said, I moved to Texas, and when I moved here, then I started seeing all the different places, different restaurants, different options. For me, that changed. It was a game changer basically, because now it's like, oh, okay, well, I can, instead of me making my own tofu, I can probably buy a pre-cooked tofu, right? I was like, okay, that's great. Or now instead of just seeing soy milk and rice milk, now we got 15 or 20 other vegetable flax meal type of meals that are available. So it opens the market, right? It's like you don't have one type of vehicle. You have now 10, 15 type of vehicles, so you can choose from different prices, different range, size, whatever. So that's what the beautiful part of it is, like having the options now. You can pick and choose which ones you want. You want the healthier one, you want that might be as tasty, or you want to get the not so healthy one, but it tastes a lot better, it's a lot sweeter. So you have more options to pick from. So that's the beautiful part of it. So it was a game changer from that perspective, right? But I never lost my interest on like how can I maintain as healthy as possible, even though I have all these opportunities to eat out and consume all these different type of meals.
Yeah, I imagine that move to Houston opened lots of doors, one of the biggest cities in America. Even though it's in Texas, which you don't always associate with veganism, there's many cities like Austin and Dallas and Houston that are very forward thinking when it comes to veganism. There's lots of restaurants, there's communities there, there's vegan festivals. I even spoke at a veg fest in Houston a long time ago. I don't know if it's still happening, but it was a long time ago, 10 or 15 years ago. And it was great. So Roger, when did you really get into weightlifting? I mean, basketball as a background, sports as a background, being physically active and fit and doing that with a plant-based diet. But then you got into weight training. And I'm not even sure I know the answer of when you actually started that and why you started that and why did you want to get bigger and stronger. So can you tell us about that origin story, then how you ended up on the bodybuilding stage?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for asking that question, Robert. So let me go back. So when I was an athlete, I never thought about lifting weight, although weight lifting could have definitely helped me on my longevity of my career, right? So that's one of the things, is like when you don't have enough knowledge about a specific thing, you can't incorporate that into your daily day. Once you start gaining more knowledge into a specific topic, then you don't have no excuses at that point. So even though I always, you'll see pictures of me when I was probably like 14, 15, with one of those traditional old school benches that has it's just like one bench with the bar like that. You'll find pictures of me that I always had like a passion. And not only that, but if you talk to a lot of my family members, bodybuilding was one and is being one of the sports that a lot of my family members gravitate to. They never took it to the level I did, but they always had a passion and attraction, especially my uncle. I have an uncle of mine, shout out to my uncle Carlos. He actually lived in upstate New York. He's a huge fan of bodybuilding, like huge fan. Old school fan of bodybuilding. He still lifts weight. He coaches people and whatnot. Huge fan of bodybuilding. He sent me magazines all the time. Ronnie and all the different type of guy back in his day, that Arnold, all the different type of guys, right? That he idolized. And so when I started lifting weight, he called me like, "Hey man, congratulations!" I felt good. Just my uncle just calling me to congratulate me for that. So bodybuilding always been in my family, but I didn't know that. Like for me, it was like I just like basketball. Basketball is my thing. So basketball is always my sport. But um, when I transitioned to vegan in 2002, I was thinking about lifting weight, Robert, right? And I'll tell you this, I never shared this before, but I was talking to my buddy that is vegan, right? And I was like, man, I've been thinking about lifting weight. He was like, why you want to lift weight? You should do that. Why do you need all this muscle for? So I kind of let myself get convinced not to do it during that time. And I kind of started thinking like, man, if I would have lifted weight back then, I would have been a world champion by now. I would have cut a lot of the years, but things happen for a reason. So I was like, at that time, I was thinking about lifting weight. Now I didn't know how I was going to do it because I'm going from changing my whole lifestyle and now talking about lifting weight. So that's just like two things at the same time, like two big changes in my life. So I had those thoughts from back then, to way 2002, 2000, early 2000. So I started lifting weight just because I wanted to get in shape. Because even though I lost a lot of weight when I went vegan, I did lose a lot of weight when I went vegan. Um, I was a lot slimmer, right? So I wanted to gain some muscle because I never had muscle, never. Like I never had. Well, let me rephrase. I never had bodybuilding type of shape look, right? Because we all have muscles to some extent. So I never had like bodybuilding muscle. I never had that physique. So I wanted to get in shape. I wanted to look good, especially because I always hear people say, "Oh, you can't accomplish that on a vegan diet." So to me, that was kind of like a motivation. But everything happens when I actually went to Portland Breakfast and I met Mr. Robert Cheeke, right? And all the different athletes that I met during that time, they were all like, "Man, you should go, you should do bodybuilding," because at that point, I think I was like about 220 pounds. But I was a big guy because I took like 2 or 3 years just to get as big as possible. I wasn't even looking at no physique whatsoever. I just started lifting weight, lifting heavy, and getting as big as possible. So I gained huge amount of weight, and I get a lot of strength from that. So I was like bench pressing like 400 pounds. I was just going crazy on bench. I was go to the gym. People thought I was like a football player. You're so big. I remember those times during I went to the cruise. So during those days, so I just started lifting weight, motivated by one, I wanted to prove people that you can accomplish, you can get big and strong on a vegan diet. Two, it was a personal challenge for me because I'm always been the person that when I put myself a goal, I try to achieve it to a highest level. So I put myself a goal that even though my late 30s, mid 30s, whatever that age was, I'm still going to accomplish this because it is possible. There's no way that people keep saying that it's not possible. When I'm going online and I'm seeing all these great athletes, Robert, and all these different people promoting veganism and bodybuilding at the same time. So, and then the third motivation was my family loved this stuff. It comes from my family origins. Like they all like, "Oh, we love bodybuilding." So I'm like, "Wait, what am I doing? Let's do this." And the fourth thing was I had a really bad injury with playing basketball. So I needed another sport. I needed another sport. And this bodybuilding is an individual sport. There's nothing you can blame here. There's no coaches you blame. I mean, you can go from a competitive level, you can blame your coach, but at the same time, you make sure you're doing all the work. So it's a very individual sport that you go and you have to put the time in the diet, into your workouts and everything. So there's really nobody to blame, it's just yourself. So for me, it was a good way for, again, put myself a goal, a challenge, and accomplish. So I had those four motivations to be able to make this step, take that step, and that's how I started it. So I started by just going to the gym first. I was just going to the gym, working out. I was going with my partner during that time because she wanted to lose weight. So she was in the goal of losing weight. I was in the goal of gaining muscle mass and gaining size. So we had two different goals. But I wasn't taking it serious, right? I was just going to the gym. I was going with my cell phone, with my flip flop on my phone, talking to my buddy, and I would just grab a dumbbell, be talking on the phone. And then a trainer caught me. He said, "What are you doing? Like, what is it that you're doing? Like, you're not taking this stuff seriously. Like, you cannot be coming to the gym and flip flops and in the phone and thinking that you're going to gain something." So I was like, you know what? He's right. So I got serious and I started lifting. So then I went to Portland, meet you guys, meet a bunch of the athletes. I'm like, "You just need to start doing bodybuilding. You're gonna win. You're gonna win." People believing in me. I'm like, "You guys believe in me? Like, you guys think I can win?" Like, "Yeah, you're gonna win." I'm like, "Okay, well, let's do it." So that kind of motivates me even more to kind of get into a competitive stage. So that's where my career started.
Yeah, and it sounds like we have a little bit of a similar background there where we were
Oh
motivated
yeah,
to show people that we could do it without consuming animals, that we could be champion vegan athletes, that we could build our bodies, that we
yeah,
had this, a little bit of something to prove. And
right.
also, this slogan comes to mind when you're talking, anything you can do, I can do vegan, right? Like it seems like the
Ah,
attitude that you had
yeah,
was that, listen, uh, anything you guys can do, building muscle, being on the bodybuilding stage, I can do that as a vegan. And it seems like you took that
right,
to heart, but then you also had that extra layer of that being something that was part of your family. And so there's this family
right.
and culture and heritage and pride of being this bodybuilder and having your uncle proud of you and getting on stage. And
Yeah.
it kind of comes full circle there. So
Right.
that's kind of that's a cool story that's got to make you feel good. It's got to make your family feel good. And so you've been around for a while now,
Yeah.
22 years in the vegan fitness industry,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
what are your thoughts on the vegan fitness industry today? How have you seen it change? What direction do you think it's headed in? How do you feel about it today?
Yeah.
What's your role in it these days? And I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, that's a great question because I actually wanted to talk to you about this because I've been hearing a lot of so so let's say from where we started it to now, and then you can even speak even further out. Uh, he has grown so much, right? So now it's so mainstream. Like I think the whole fitness industry is so mainstream. Like, but at the same time, I think this is a blessing and a curse. One, I think it's a blessing because um, you cannot go online and find any type of support um, that you can find right? From a coach. You can find a coach a lot quicker these days. Before it was kind of hard to find somebody that help you with coaching. You have to find maybe a meat eater, a carnivore coach, and then have them try to accommodate your the fitness, not the fitness part, but mostly the eating part to your lifestyle. And then he or she might not know much about it, so he will be like, "Oh no, that's not possible." So you have all this debate and all this discussion. Now you kind of strip that away, and you can strictly find vegan coaches, and it's vegan coaches for all levels. So that's great. So now we have a supply for this demand. But then the other aspect is now everybody thinks he's a coach. Someone not even certified, right? So now everybody is like, "Oh, I'm a coach. I'm a lifestyle coach. I'm a fitness coach. I'm combined." Everybody's a coach. So the internet has opened it so much that it's like it's a free for all type of deal. And then that sometimes can create a situation where it's confusing for some people, right? Because it's like, is he or she really a coach? So for me, always it's good to do the diligence when you hiring a coach. Second thing is that I think like a lot of the coaches now they're moving more into the influencing part of it now. It's the move of the likes, and we're moving more into the influence type of concept more than just coaching people. So are we losing the message? The are we losing the core concept of helping people accomplish their goal? I'm not saying all of them are, but it's important that we stay on track, and then we provide people with a service or with a service that requires that's needed, which is improvement of the body, improvement of the health, or whatever that losing weight, gaining weight, whatever is individuals' goals are. So I feel like at the beginning, yes, it was great that we have access. So because if it wasn't for the internet, maybe I would have never met Robert. Roger would have never met Robert, right? Because I got into bodybuilding .com website. I found the group. Then I saw a community. I felt I'm not alone. There's a sense of like there's more people like me. Not only like they like fitness, but eat they also eat vegetables. They're vegan and they love animals. So there's a community. Like I'm not alone. I mean, they're far from where I am, or they're distant from where I am, but the internet makes us closer, right? So at the same point, I found a great highway to connect to folks on my list from a distance to this day, and we still utilize and leverage those tools. So it was great that we had the internet. in that sense. And now from there, I connected with all the different people, make so many friends around the line, and it's awesome. So it's great. I think it's a great community that we built there. Now, when it comes down to where we headed, or where we are now, it seems like the whole movement of coaches, like I said, they're turning more Hollywood now, or more doing videos now, and we kind of lost what the main core of helping others was. I actually at some point I wanted to become a trainer, and I help a lot of people. I never even charged. I was just open to help people on the fitness journey. Uh, but I noticed that it turns down into one of those situations that a lot of people would need help, and the information is out there. So you can get that information, you can leverage that information. But now the coaches themselves, I know that they rely more on this to become a business. And it's great. But even as you go to the gym, you see personal trainers, and they still get some clients, and they get some clients. But for mostly online coaches to be able to be successful, they have to do it online, and then there's no personal interaction. So the downsides to that is that I don't get a coach that can help me on my form. And Robert can vouch on this, how important he is form for different aspect of training, right? Maybe for losing weight, for some folks might not be as important. But at the same time, I would say, well, not really, because you don't want to do exercise the wrong way and then get hurt. So that's even worse. So you want to be able to have the right form. So online, I help us to kind of expand and get more, meet more people, be able to spread the message further out. But at the same time, I think it lost a little bit of the human, the personal interaction. That's has been with a lot of things. In the industry itself, we think, or that's what I heard, is that the industry, as far as fitness, is dying. I want you to tell me what you think, Robert, in that context. When they say the fitness industry, as far as influencers doing fitness, is dying, all the influencers that have been doing fitness have segued to something else because they say they don't see a market on it. And then you can tell me what you think, especially because you come from a fitness background. You always been great, but you became multi-famous for multiple books and information related to fitness. But your last book was not fitness related. You segued to something else. So I wanted to give us your opinion about that. Actually, I had that doubt, a question in my mind. Like, I need to ask Robert about this. Like, tell us a little bit about this, Robert.
Yeah, well, this is almost going to turn into you interviewing me now, because I took like 5 pages of notes. First of all, Roger, I want to validate what you said. I share some of the same thoughts and same impressions and same, I don't know if it's the word, concerns about the fitness industry and some of the directions that it's going. And I wrote down a bunch of notes, so I think I'll be able to explain what I mean by that. And I also have to say, with, I don't know, with a caveat, it seems like almost all my friends in the vegan industry are coaches these days. Like, they're all fitness coaches. Like, everybody's a coach. I'm not. People even, I mean, I'm telling you, someone just last week offered to send me hundreds of dollars just to write them a meal plan. But I'm not a coach. It's not what I do. And now that person is working with somebody else because I'm not a coach, but everybody I know is, all my friends and social media and the vegan fitness scene, vegan bodybuilders, they're all coaches. So here's what I wrote down based on what you said, and you can tell me if I'm right or if I'm accurately kind of representing what you said. And again, I feel a lot of the same things about this. Number one, there's a lot of money in coaching. It's something that came on the scene 10 years ago or so, but much more popular in the last 5 years. There's a lot of money in it. People want to pay lots of money to have someone tell them what to do. So number one, for someone who's a vegan athlete, especially a bodybuilder who's kind of focused a bit more on ego and their self-image and all that. And people are offering to pay them sometimes thousands or many thousands of dollars to help guide them. And bodybuilders love to be in a position of authority and give advice and coaching. And here's how I did it. Here's what worked for me. I'm a champion, pay me and I'll share that with you. And now we're in an era where your coach is not just your football coach at school anymore, or your basketball coach, or your music instructor, which you could call a coach, or your financial advisor, which you could call a coach. Coaching has become universal. Like you mentioned, life coaching, you mentioned fitness coaching, health coaching. It is everywhere now. And I also will acknowledge what you said, that there's a relationship with being a coach and a popular influencer and a popularity contest. And that brings us back to a little bit of high school days, teenage days, but it doesn't mean that it's not happening in front of our eyes. Roger, I can give you examples that you're going to appreciate. And I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus, but let me tell you some of my experiences, Roger, because you asked me.
Yeah.
A few years back, for example, I was at one of the big fitness expos in the whole world, 50,000 people or so. And there was 8-time Olympia champion Lee Haney, one of the greatest bodybuilders who've ever lived. And he had basically no line to go see him. But there was like a online influencer bikini model with 17 million followers, and there was a line for hours to meet her. I didn't even know her name. And, and again, I'm not saying anything bad about that aspect of influencer. I'm just talking about how society perceived them. Then I was at the Olympia, and there were 3 of the greatest bodybuilders, male IFBB bodybuilders of all time. Guys like Flex Wheeler and Lee Priest, and they joined to form the supplement company, right? 3 major bodybuilders who used to be on all the magazine covers. They were the ones that we always looked up to.
Right.
Then there was like this online influencer, Bradley Martin, I think it was, millions of followers. And he had a big line for hours that you could see these bodybuilders who helped build the sport of bodybuilding, these famous bodybuilders, made it popular, made the Olympia, the Super Bowl of bodybuilding, made it popular. You could see they were visibly kind of upset. No one cared about them because they cared about the online influence instead. And I see this everywhere I go, that there's the online popularity of these influencers supersedes the accomplishments of the most successful bodybuilders in the history of the world, with the only exceptions being maybe like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's popular everywhere he goes because he's Arnold and he's a Hollywood movie star. So he's really a blend.
Right.
But here's what I wrote down when you were talking that makes me think, and you asked me like what I think about, some of the coaching and online influencer presence in the vegan space. And here's what I got out of it. One, there's a lot of ego involved. There's a lot of ego in personal reputation. There's a lot of money involved in coaching. You can make a very good living. I know many people who make 6 or 7 figure income as a coach, even as a vegan fitness coach. Some people do incredibly well. There's a self-importance of being the coach or having clients and being someone who guides someone else along their journey. Makes one feel important. It also helps boost self-esteem or give affirmation of positive self-worth. There's another word I used earlier, popularity. People trying to get the most followers, the most likes, the most shares, the most traction, the most affiliate opportunities. And there's reputation. There's reputation, like that your name gets out there and you're someone that people talk about and think about and tell other people about. There's also an opportunity to work from home. We're in this time frame that we're in where we all used to go to a job, and now you can work from your phone or work from your laptop and make a 6 or 7 figure income as a coach, while growing your popularity, your fame, your reputation, which gets you um, free stuff and opportunities to travel and go around all over the world just because your name and reputation and it's kind of like college sports now with your name, image, and likeness. It's going to take you far. And
Right.
Roger, basically the main thing is that everybody is a personal brand these days.
Yeah,
I'm a personal
true.
brand. You're a personal brand. Every
Yeah.
guest I have on the show is a personal brand, whether we know it or not. Even stay-at-home parents are personal brands. They have the opportunity
Right.
they share what they're doing on Facebook and on Instagram and on TikTok and on YouTube and whatever. We're all in this industry of trying to gain other people's attention. And we're
Hmm.
also
True.
in this industry of trying to get other people's money. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I sell books,
Right. 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 Right.
people pay for that. You have
Exactly.
products you
Right.
sell, people pay for that. People have
Correct.
coaching services they offer, people pay for that. But it doesn't
Right.
change the fact that I think, to your point, I think what you're really getting at is that it used to be a desire to help people was first. Now
Right.
the desire
Right.
is to boost personal brand and make money. And if I can help people along the way, then that's a good thing.
Right.
And
Yes.
and
Yeah.
and
Correct.
does that kind of summarize
Yes.
what you're
Yes.
thinking?
Correct. Yeah. That's a good way to say.
Yeah, and I don't talk about that a lot. I don't share my thoughts on that a whole lot. Who knows?
Right.
I might get some backlash for sharing that today. But I'm not trying to say that in a negative way. I'm saying there,
Right. No.
there's an opportunity now to be a coach, to be an influencer, to have a personal brand, and to grow that into something big and change your life. And a lot of people are doing it. And if anything, Roger, I would
Mhm.
have to admit, as one of the first vegan athletes in the world, first notable vegan athletes in the world who built
Mhm.
veganbodybuilding.com 22 years ago,
Right.
who had all these privileges and head start and advanced opportunities. If anything, I would have to admit that I'm jealous or envious that that didn't happen for me. I could have been
Mm.
the go-to coach. I created the vegan bodybuilding movement. I could have been
Right.
the main guy. Didn't happen for me. I could have been that personal brand where everyone wants Robert Cheeke to endorse their product or their event or whatever, and that didn't necessarily happen for me. On some
Okay.
scale, it did, but
Yeah. Okay.
but I think if I do at times sound a little bit critical of the direction some of the vegan fitness movement is heading, it's probably because it left me behind, and I feel a little bit,
I see.
if I'm being
Okay.
honest. And so we all have our own opinions
Hmm.
of where the movement's headed and where it's been and where it's going and what it is right now. But I think sometimes, I know at least for me, it's because of how I feel in relation to the movement. Like maybe like I thought I deserved more opportunities than I got or something like that. Or
Okay.
I
Okay.
missed the boat and things passed me by because I didn't adapt fast enough.
Gotcha.
But I also share some of the same concerns with you that when there's ego involved and there's lots of money involved and there's personal brand involved, you are going to lose some of the authenticity. It's just part of the deal.
Yes. True
So
that. That's true.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
so
that's a good point.
I think I share some of that, some of those same feelings
Mhm.
um, that you share. But let's go back to fitness just for a moment. Uh,
Mhm. Yeah.
so you've competed a number of times. I've actually been there and
Yeah.
seen you compete on stage. Are you still competing, or do you plan to? I know what did you say? You're 45. I'm 44. Uh, do
Yeah.
you still do you still compete? Do you plan to compete? Do you plan to do any coaching or mentoring yourself? What's your relationship with bodybuilding today, Roger?
Hey, it's Nathan Crane, founder of Plant Powered Athlete, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Plant Powered Athlete podcast. And as a special thank you, I want to give you a 10% discount code on our Plant Powered Protein, scientifically formulated, super clean, organic, high quality plant powered protein designed with health and performance and longevity in mind, with 3 super high quality adaptogens that have been shown to help improve energy, increase focus, endurance, speed up recovery, and help your body thrive. So the 10% discount code, you can use the word podcast at checkout, and you can get plant-powered protein at our website at plantpoweredathlete.com. Thanks again for tuning in.
Yeah. So I do have plans to compete again. So I did a competition last year. So I'm fresh out of I'm fresh out of a competition. I competed last year. I competed my fifth time. Yeah, this is my fifth competition, and I placed third and fourth on my category. So I'm still competing, and my plans. So usually, what the way I schedule my training, my competition is every other year. So in theory, this is my growing year, and then next year should be my competition year, right? If I do it that way. Now, I had that in my mind that I would like to compete next year. However, we'll see how life goes, because I have so many other personals and outside plans of bodybuilding that might shift that around. But yes, I do have plans of competing at some point. Yeah, not this year, but maybe next year or the next following year. I've never gone more than 2 years maybe in between of competitions. I don't know when I will retire when it comes down to bodybuilding. As from a competition standpoint, because you never retire from training. That's one thing that I want to let clear, right? Just same like Robert. He goes to the gym, he posts pictures going to the gym. You cannot take that away from us. Like I'm always going to go to the gym. Even if I'm going 3 or 4 times a week, let's say less, I'm still training different type of muscle parts. I'm still training like if I was competing. Even though I'm not competing, I train like if I'm competing and try to increase my weight or reduce my weight. My reps, try to improve every time I go to the gym. Like I take it seriously. When I go, I train, even though I might be tired, I might be exhausted from the day, but I still take it like if I'm training for a competition, even though I'm not competing. That's how serious I am about it. Because for me, it's serious. Like again, it goes down to my personality. If I say I'm gonna be a professional bodybuilder, I'm gonna take it like a professional. When you when you train as a bodybuilder, especially from a professional standpoint, you really have to get serious, because you're competing against some of the best, right? Everybody brings their best package, and everybody feel like they need to win, or they deserve to win. Oh, wow, I don't know why I didn't win. We all get mad when they don't win. I always tell the story about my first show ever. Robert was there, and I did my first show, went on stage, and I think I placed like 4 in that show, and I was disappointed. I was mad. I was with my head down. I almost cried. I don't even cry that much. And I was like so disappointed. And this guy right here, Robert, he grabbed me and said, Roger, come here. Why are you mad? Like, what's wrong with you? This is your first show ever. You did well for your first show. I didn't even place in my first show. I remember those words from you. And I was like, okay, if Robert said it, it's all good. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're going to get there. I said, okay. If Robert says that, then I have nothing to worry about. I lifted my head and we continue smiling. Let's get some food. So situations like that change your life, right? You don't even know who impact, what kind of impact you create on people. So I don't have no plans to precisely coaching people, but what I will want to do, or what we'll be doing at some point or soon or later, will be public speaking. Eventually, I want to come out with a book or some kind of project that allows me to talk to folks, talk to people, talk to men, women, whoever, kids, that I can able to share some of my stories, some of my knowledge, some of the things that I gain and learn, some of the do's and don'ts, all these different tangibles, or different things that I can prove as a content to folks, right? And then that will be my way, you guys, of teaching, spreading the word, spreading the message, all related to veganism, of course, right? I always stay focused on the main goal, right? So that's one of my goals. So that's how I'll be able to coach people, is by talking to folks, be on stage and be able to talk different languages, whatnot, be able to spread the message in different parts of the world, and be able to tell people all the different things about not only the movement, the way bodybuilding helped me kind of shape my life, but also same way I save animals, all the different things. So that's what will be my main ultimate goal, Robert, from that perspective. So no, I'm not competing anytime soon. At the end, I want to compete at some point. See, not this next year, will be the next following year. I'm not fully retired from bodybuilding. I just recently did a show. So my last show was in October. So I'm about to turn a year from my last show. October 27 was the last show I actually did. Both was local show right here in Texas. I was probably my best shape ever. Like I was top shape in my opinion from since the day I started to now. And I still placed fourth and I still placed third, right? So that's how competitive. And the funny is that my first show, competitor were telling me, "Oh, you're gonna win." When you're in the show, Robert, and the people that you competed against you telling you that you're gonna win, my confidence level was way high. I was like, I was high and not even take drugs. I was like, "Oh man, I'm gonna win." I was so excited. I was confident on stage because the guy next to me and the other guy, all 3 or 4 competitors were saying, "No, you're gonna win. You have the best package." And I played third. I'm like, what's going on? Like, how I play third, and the guys right next to me think that I have the best body. So that's how competitive this sport is. That's how difficult this sport is. So, and then you can take that information and cry about it, right? Like Robert said, or you can lift your head up and continue working and improving yourself and do better in the next show.
Yeah, exactly. And I appreciate you sharing that too. That's interesting. I remember that. I remember
Yeah.
watching you compete and you not being very happy with how you finished. And I've been everywhere from first place to last place. You know, I've been last, I think, multiple times. I've been first multiple times. I've been second a bunch of times. I've been in the middle. There were times where I thought, just like you, it reminded me. I was even saying backstage, like, okay, you're probably gonna be first, I'll be second. And I ended up in
Right.
fifth. And I thought I was second. Are you kidding me? I was even telling people, man, you got it. And people recognize me backstage because they're like, oh man, vegan bodybuilding's here. I know Robert. And natural bodybuilding competition. And I'm thinking I'm probably second. I've come in fifth. So you never know, Roger. You never know. But
Yeah.
I do want to hear about your training and nutrition program, perhaps in a moment. But also, you talked about some of your goals to reach people through public speaking, through books, and also you've had a podcast for a while. Are you still doing the podcast? I know actually you interviewed me. Man, it must have been like 4 years ago. Like you've been doing podcasts for a long time because you interviewed me 3 or 4 years ago for your podcast, and I know you've had some episodes even in recent months, if I understand it. So is that still going on? And is it the Latino Vegano podcast?
Yeah, it's a Latin vegan. Yes, absolutely. I still have a podcast. Yes, thank you. And yes, I interviewed you. One of my first guests, and actually, I interviewed you before you even came out with the book. It was way before you got the book out. So we were talking about mostly a lot of the conversation was around the book. So it's interesting now that this is like the aftermath of the book, right? So I still have the podcast. We're still going strong. This day I used it a lot to kind of talk my experience about a different, because I'm on a different journey right now, right? So when I'm training, I talk a lot about my training. So I use it kind of like a personal blog now these days, because a lot of the topics related to veganism is not like they're updated, but like I'm talking about like a lot of things. I mean, it's 20 plus years of like being a lifestyle. So we got a lot of knowledge there, right? So I've spoken a lot of these different topics about veganisms and from different aspects. And now this day I use it more as a personal blog kind of. So I told my stories from different things that I'm living in at that moment. So when I'm training, I talk about my training and what is some of the things that I'm doing as far as food wise and as far as training wise, which I know you talked about those things. And now I'm mostly talking about I'm in a different path now, so I'm in entrepreneurship part of it. So now I'm speaking about that a little bit more. So now you're gonna find more information related to that. So the podcast is still going, and the podcast came out because I wanted a way of having my own platform so I can share my own personal experiences as a male, as a vegan, as a brother, as a future father, as a friend. I mean, just gonna share my experience that I everything that happens to me or everything that I learned during my journey. Hopefully, some of that information you can take it. I mean, and then you can find something valuable and don't make the same mistakes or learn something from it, right? So, like for example, when I first went vegan, I went to a stage that I was not eating anything. And I don't recommend that to anyone. I went vegan cold turkey, right? When I went vegan, went cold turkey. And I was like, I'm not gonna eat nothing because everything touched animal. Ah! That was my radical idea. You want to put it on those terms. And I don't advise that because you gotta eat. Your body needs some food, or at least water, or your body. I mean, some people might not tell me that no, your body doesn't need food, but during that time, since I've been feeding myself, I needed to consume something, right? And I wasn't even eating at all. And so, and I got sick. So the first thing that happened was people were blaming veganism. So that's one thing that I will not recommend. I mean, some people might like the step-by-step type of approach, the maybe meatless Mondays, whatever is your approach, right? I'm a guy that if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right. So I won't one cold turkey, no pun intended, right? But then I have the right information. Maybe you're the type of person that I need a lot of research, a lot of data before I take any steps. Fine, whatever is your approach. But the one I took was, okay, I'm not eating, and then I got sick, and then I'm like, what's going to happen? So I learned from those different experiences. So for me, it's always good to have a platform that I can go share, hey, this is what I did. This is what I would recommend you to do. And then you take that information and apply it for you, and then make better decisions and do better than what we did. Right, Robert?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's good to reflect on that stuff. And that's, of course, what I wrote about in my new book a lot as well. But you've got your own new project. I mentioned you as an entrepreneur numerous times, and you've got your own all vegan ice cream truck, Chilled Cocoa, right? And you're in Houston, Texas. Tell me, I remember you texted me some time ago. You texted me like what my favorite ice cream flavor was, and you were like gonna name a product after me, and you were starting this new venture in Houston, and then I see your videos, I see you online, you're making waffles and ice cream and all kinds of stuff. So tell me how that started and how people can find you and where they can find you, how they can try your products when they come to Houston, and like how did that even begin? I don't even know the origin story of where that all started.
I know it's kind of weird, but you'll be surprised. So your favorite flavor was mint?
Yeah,
Mint chocolate?
Chocolate chip mint, yeah.
Okay. So I made it. I have it in the store. I have the rubber chick special. I have it. So anyway, so I'm gonna tell you how this one of the things that kind of inspired me, because there's a couple of things that kind of inspired me to create this project. So you remember that year, that year that we were in Austin, right? Yeah. That same year that we were in Austin for a Natural Fit Federation competition. The same year that we were talking about, that you came out and greet me backstage and say, hey, lift your head up and whatnot, right? That same year.
Yeah.
So you told me, hey, here in Austin, he's one of my favorite ice cream places. You remember which one it is?
Yeah. Was it like Sweet Ritual or something? Or
Sweet Ritual. There you go. Sweet Ritual. So I went to that place, and that changed my life because I had never had vegan ice cream at that point made that way.
Yeah.
So you like, oh, let's go to Sweet Ritual. And now they had all this variety of flavors. I was like, oh, wow, this is awesome. This is great. So Sweet Ritual always came to mind when we were talking about ice cream. So let's fast forward now, right? So I'm with my girlfriend, and then she was like, oh, I want to try some vegan ice cream. I said, oh, let's go to my favorite spot, which Robert introduced me to back in those days here in Austin. So we drove to Austin. When I got to Austin, Sweet Ritual closed.
Wow.
I was like, oh man, what are we gonna do now? I'm like, I'm all here disappointed. I was all excited because I wanted to introduce it the same way you introduced to me. I was like, oh yeah, the different thing. Especially because my girlfriend, wife now, and she's transitioning to, well, she was back during that time transitioning to kind of plant-based vegan, right? So I wanted to like introduce her to like the vegan ice cream scene and whatnot. Cereal closed. So I'm like, oh man, that's sad. Like, what am I gonna do now? So I started thinking about that kept in mind. So that was the same year, was around the time that I was competing. And I wanted to get some really macro-friendly treats to be able to have something, especially maybe something where some kind of high protein, low carb, low fat, whatnot. So I was trying to find some kind of some kind of treat that I can create, because you get creative when you go vegan, right? Because you're pretty much eating the same thing over and over again. So you want to get creative. So I was trying to think about ways that I can think. And one thing that came to mind was to make paletas, so popsicles, basically. And I was either with fruits or whatnot. So I was trying to find something, some way that I can make creative. So one thing led me to another. So in that research and not having sweet ritual, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna create my own sweet ritual. I'm gonna create my own business, and I'm gonna segue all these different things that I know into this. It's interesting because I'm come from a bodybuilding background per se, right? But I was a bodybuilding now, and I was going to be a bodybuilding, but I was never wanting to necessarily be identified como right, Roger the bodybuilder, because I never sold myself. I never sold that brand on me, even though I like fitness. So I'm a fitness person. Like, I like sports, I like fitness. So that was mostly what I enjoy. I was not necessarily saying that I wanted to be recognized in the world as just a bodybuilder. You know, I'm a vegan first, and then everything else, right? So vegan could be an advocate for animals. It could be an activist. It could be a variety of things. And in business always been in my DNA, especially there's a lot of things in my DNA, especially because, you know, from an educational standpoint, I studied business. So I was thinking, like, man, how here in Houston specifically, we don't have a spot that offers those kind of options for vegans. And the one that I like in Austin, close. So, which is, you know, it's 2.5 hours for the people that were familiar with the distance between Houston and Austin. And they got some other places that sell vegan ice cream and whatnot, but nothing like that specific place. So I actually reached out to the owners of Sea Ritual, and they sold me a ebook, right? Kind of coaching, right? We're talking about coaching, right? They sold me an ebook. We have a lot of the recipes, a lot of things they use, and that's how I started to getting some knowledge and some information regarding this specific field. But before I even went ahead that way, I was starting to make my own recipe here at home with ice cream and doing all the different things. I was starting to make my own ice cream here at home, and then I took a trip to Panama to see my family, and I was working on a different project over there. Right, I had all these different concepts, different project over there that I was going to do, like a vegan Dave and Buster. Basically, I was going to build one over there. That was my whole goal, with all the basketball shoot and all the different games and whatnot. And it was going to sell like vegan, all the food section was going to be all full vegan. That was going to be my concept. But the politics part of it kind of made me force me to move back here. Well, not to move back, but to take the idea and then make the idea here instead of opening that idea over there. That doesn't mean that eventually I will be back and do something else, right? So I just have to shift the concept. So I came back to Houston. So I'm jumping from one to another, but at the end, it's all going to come together, right? So I came back to Houston, and I took the idea of the sweet ritual. I took the idea of making paletas for, you know, from the competition standpoint, and then I took the idea of the Dave and Buster type of concept that I was going to build international, and I combined that, and I was like, okay, I'm going to build something here in Houston. So that's how it all comes to play. So it was a combination of different events that kind of led me to it, right? It wasn't like one specific thing, but you had to do with that too, because it's all come down to what we were talking about in Austin. So I came down here and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to build to here. So now what I do from that point on, like what's next? It's always what's next. And I started brainstorming idea. I was going to get a low establishment, and, you know, rent is high and all these different things. So I started working in the logistics. I have a background in what we call business analysis and project management. So I'm pretty good at managing projects. I'm pretty good at looking for improving processes. If something needs to be improved, how can I improve that? Either by utilizing technology or utilizing a better way of doing things, basically, right? So I'm very good at that. So I started using some of those skills that I had developed with time. I'm just not just muscle guys. So I started utilizing some of those skill sets so I can create this whole concept. And long story short, I did all that, put it together, wrote it down, wrote the plan, and boom, we built the first ice cream, the first vegan ice cream truck or food truck here in Houston. First of all, it's the first all vegan ice cream here in Houston in general, because there's a lot of places that sell vegan option, but they don't have one that's 100%, 100%, everything 100%, including the owner, 100%, 100% vegan. We built it, and we proud that we put it together. And then I have options like sugar-free options. We got gluten-free options, and then we have all kind of, we have about 30 flavors now. And I even have a protein flavor ice cream. So I mean, yeah, it's sky's the limit, right? So I'm able to be creative and create all these different things. I always like being in the kitchen doing different things, but just being the fact that I can be able to be creative with something that I enjoy is being great. We use coconut milk as our base, or we use oatmeal as our base, and then we create amazing ice cream for people, and people have been enjoying it so much. So and I'm so happy and grateful that I'm able to give back in some way somehow, because when people come and say, well, man, we didn't have anything here, like, I'm so glad that we're here. But then it comes down to the aspect that business owners, we love creating things, right? We love putting out. Robert likes writing books and giving information, but we all need y'all support, because if we won't get you guys support, then we cannot be able to continue creating more things to benefit people. And then when it comes to a business, we all know that they say that usually businesses are difficult in the first 6 months, of the year, first year. So I'm happy that I'm able to create for you guys, and then for having people come back and recurring customers and supporting our business. And I want to encourage people to continue supporting us. So, and then we'll talk about a little giveaway that we have later.
Yeah, well, congratulations on that, Roger. How long has your ice cream truck been open now?
It's been 6 months. We started in February. Yeah,
okay.
We started in February this year. So and we started in the same location that we've always been. It's crazy to have to have an ice cream business on a food truck, because logistically it's very difficult. So there's a lot of logistic behind it, just because you got to have a cold item 24/7. And we actually make the product from scratch inside the trailer, like inside the truck. Like this is not, we're not outsourcing it from nobody else. We make it from scratch. I mix all the ingredients, mix everything, the milk, everything that needs to be done. Vegan milk, of course, right? We mix all the ingredients, and then we have the machine, professional machine that we use to churn the ice cream and do all that. So yes, everything is done in-house.
Well, I've got an idea for you. I just wrote it down.
All right.
You mentioned you've got a protein option. Maybe you could come up with a plant-powered athlete ice cream flavor. We're using the plant-powered athlete protein, and we could, like, I don't know, put a spin on it, like that. I don't know, like it has some sort of nickname, or it's like it's endorsed or promoted by plant-powered athlete because it's got the protein in it. We could do like I'm just making it up on the spot. Yeah. I'm thinking that if I shared that idea with the owner of the company, I think they'd be excited to have like their name as an ice cream flavor at the shop in Houston, and telling our customers to go there to check it out and try it and post photos online. And maybe there's a collaboration, so we could follow
Absolutely.
up offline about that. And so does your truck, do you travel to events as well, or is it in the same like stationary location that's like listed on your Instagram page? I saw you've got an address there and open, I think 4 to 10 every day. So no, you got work coming up. Work coming up soon.
Yeah.
And it's called Chilled Cocoa, right?
Right. So I do go to events. As a matter of fact, this month, well, by the time this comes out, it already passed. But on the 20th of this month, we'll be doing a vegan vibes event. So it's going to be a big festival here in Houston, where we're going to have a bunch of vegan vendors. They're anticipating about 3,000 people in the event. So that's going to be a good turnaround. Well, I'm just excited. It will be my first year But I do go to events. So sometimes I'm very selective with the events I go, just because of, like I said, the logistic of traveling with freezers and all these different things to an event for a long period of time is not as easy as it sounds. But we do love going to events. I had an event on a local university here. I can say at the Rice University here in Houston, which went during the days of Earth Day. So the group of students from Rice, they hire the truck itself, and then we serve ice cream to all the different students. I do an employee appreciation day as well. So companies hire us just to give ice cream to their employees, and I did a festival for 4th of July as well too, and that was great during the summer. So yes, we do events every now and then. We do those, but for the most part, we are located in 1001 West Timer Road, Montrose and Westheimer, for people that are familiar with the Houston area. That's very close to downtown Houston. And the beautiful part of where I'm located, guys, is that if you come prepared, is you come to visit us, when you guys come to visit us, let's put it that way, come ready to eat. Because this is one of the few places in Houston that you can find vegan food and vegan dessert in the same location, in the same spot. You had two vegan food trucks, two, not one, two vegan food trucks, plus mine, which is a vegan dessert. So you got three vegan businesses in one location. You can have your burgers and your fries and your nachos, and then you can have Mexican vegan as well, which is super delicious as well. And then you can come have some ice cream or your milkshake or your float or whatever other goodie you want to take with you. So it's a beautiful time. Would you ever imagine that, Robert, having so many vegan businesses in one location? And then we trying to build a vegan kernel, like have more vegan businesses and kind of push some of the other guys away. But do you ever thought about like this? Like, are we getting to a point that vegans is not on the ground type of movement anymore?
Yeah,
Not.
I think that's awesome. I just wrote
Yeah.
down visit Roger in Houston. So here's what I'm going to do. I got to talk to my wife, Karen, of course. But what I want to do is I want to come out. I want to visit. I want to document it. I want to take photos and videos. Especially if we get some sort of plant-powered athlete protein mixed in somehow as well. I'd love to come down there, give it a visit, see you. It's been a while since I've seen you. It's been, I mean, in person, it's been a little while now.
Right.
So I'd love to come out for a visit, check it out, try the chocolate chip mint that's named after me.
Yes.
Drop off some bags of plant-powered protein for you and do some promotion there in case you end up wanting to use that or incorporating it in. And doing those things that you and I both talked about, like the influencer stuff and get content, because I think that sounds like a lot of fun. And the fact that I can eat at all these other restaurants, vegan restaurants from the other vegan food trucks in the same area, and I can have my dessert and eat it too. I can have my dinner, my dessert, and all vegan and eat it too. And Houston is one of the cities I really wanted to go to sign books in bookstores, and I never made it. I made it to Dallas, I made it to Austin, I believe. Maybe did I make it to Austin? I'm not sure. But I know there's some great bookstores out in Houston, and I can go out and sign books. And I love going to Half Price Books too, which is a Texas-based company. I love their used bookstores. They do sell some new books as well, but I always go there and sign all kinds of books for them and distribute them so people get a chance to buy my books at a discounted price, about half price compared to what they get in other stores or online. And I love doing that. So I'm going to put Houston on my travel schedule. I do have a pretty busy travel schedule right now, lots of vegan festivals to go to. So I don't know exactly, it might not be until the spring, although I know you have some pretty nice weather during the winter. So we'll have to see. I'll have to talk to my wife and see what we can arrange. But I've got the air miles, especially with Southwest Airlines. So it's not that big of a deal for me to come out, and I would love to do that.
Yeah, sure. Anytime, Robert, and you guys more than welcome to stay with us. You guys will love it here, so it will be a pleasure to have you guys here. So don't worry about lodging. So you can stay with us here. So we got
That's
plenty of room
perfect.
here.
That makes it even easier because that's
Oh
a
yeah.
bit of an obstacle is trying to, flights I got air miles for, but lodging is always a big expense and all of
Don't
that.
worry about that.
Well, I
We got you.
appreciate that, Roger. Thank you.
Mhm,
Thank you.
mhm, mhm.
I wanted to ask you actually a little bit more about Houston, about like what your favorite restaurant is, what the vegan scene
Yeah.
like, because you're the third or fourth largest city in America. You're basically
Right.
Chicago. You're right behind New York and LA.
Right.
Houston and Chicago are basically tied these days as the third largest city in America. So I know we're probably another 10 or
Yeah.
15 minutes as we wrap up today,
Yeah.
to cover anything else you want to cover. But just briefly, like, what's the vegan scene like in Houston, Texas, one of the biggest cities in America?
Yeah. So it's a great question because for many years, Austin always been a vegan mecca. And it still is. There's no doubt. There still is. When you think about vegan in Texas, you think about Austin, right? You never think about Houston or Dallas or even San Antonio, right? You never think about any of those cities, right? However, the vegan movement has really gotten better and bigger here in Texas, right? No pun intended, right? It's getting bigger and better. So we have definitely more options than way before 20 years when I came here. Now the downside is that Houston is so big that you do have to travel to go to places, which is one of the biggest um, uh, drawbacks of the bigger movement. Because, like for example, if I'm in downtown area but I live west, so that's like a half an hour drive for me to go from one place to another. So people usually that live in, let's say, west, north, or south, they're usually going to stay on their area. So you're going to be limited to the locations. You're going to be limited to the restaurants, depending on if you live on the suburb and the outskirts of Houston. Now, if you move into the city wise, then you have a plethora of options, right? I like some of the places that I like. I'm gonna give a shout out to my buddies that actually had the trucks where where we at. So Houston Atlanta vegan is is actually a really good comfort vegan food. I recommend it. Vigos is Mexican vegan food, very clean, very fresh food, really great flavor. He makes tacos with jackfruit. So yeah, so it's like a different level. Really good food as well. So that's two of my favorite places. Then we got places like they got a soul food vegan place, More Better Brew, which is sell like vegan soul food. And there's a soul food vegan place too. There's a place that is it's interesting because there's a place in Houston that kind of sells kind of raw food. That's very interesting. Raw vegan food. It's called Green Sea, and it's been out for so many years. I mean, it's not located in the best area, but it's a really good, clean, raw-ish type. Have a lot of options. It's called Green Sea. They don't do a lot of advertisements, so it's like a real mom and pop type of shop. But it's a really good food. Now, if you're looking for a place with a good ambient, which we'll definitely go there, it's called Ginger Mule. Ginger Mule have a nice story. It was owned by a chef, local chef. She used to have a food truck called Sweet Tomato, and then her business became so popular that she opened a storefront, and then even more popular then she sold her business, retired, and she's not even like 40, Robert. And she retired. She like, oh, okay, good. They give her a really good offer, and she sold the business, and then now it's called Ginger Mule. The food is pretty good as well, and it's interesting because since now I have the trailer, I have the truck, a lot of my customers they go to the same places. So every time I go to a place, they're like, hey, this is the ice cream guys. They already know me because we don't have a lot, but the ones that we have some pretty good places, and they all, like I said, they're all in the same metro area of Houston. So I mentioned those Ginger Mules. I mentioned that one as well. And there's a place called Pythagoras. It's a little bit farther out of Houston. Their menu is crazy. They make like Greek food, and they make all kind of food. They made seitan, make it look and taste like ribs, and I make all kind of stuff. It's a really good place as well. And Cascabel is another Mexican restaurant which really have a nice menu. So yeah, I mentioned like at least 10 restaurants that are really great food that just thinking about it, it's like awesome just to go there. but it's a variety of food, and also it depends on what you're looking for. If you like looking for like a nice ambient, or you're just looking for like actual food, then it don't matter like where you situated. I give you those different options, but those are some of the ones that comes to mind. And I'm sorry if I'm missing some other ones, but this is the ones that comes to mind, like the most popular ones, like the
Yeah.
most famous one.
I'm going to ask you
People
about a
always talk
couple
about.
more.
Mhm.
It's honestly been, I don't even know, Roger,
Yeah.
at least 10 years since I've been to Houston.
Okay.
I mean, I travel a lot, but for whatever reason, I mostly go where the vegan festivals are, where I get invited to
Yeah.
go. And I just haven't been to
Right.
Houston in a long time. And I was in Dallas last year and the year before.
Yeah.
Actually, this year I was in Dallas. That's where my publisher is based. My book
Yeah.
publisher, and Bella, is based in Dallas. But I have not even been to Austin since we were at the Naturally Fit, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
I mean, maybe I've gone some years after that one that
okay.
you were in, but it's been years since I've even been to Austin. I don't even know what the downtown looks like anymore. And I used to live there
Oh,
12 years ago.
yeah.
So,
Barbecue Revolution closed, Robert.
oh, okay.
Yeah, but Arlo's still open.
Okay. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been a
yeah,
long
yeah,
time. But I
yeah.
remember a couple things about Houston. There used to be a Loving Hut there. Is there still Loving Hut?
Yes, they're still there. They're like the grandfathers.
Yeah, I love Loving
Yeah,
Hut.
loving her.
They're
Yes,
just
they still.
they're
You're
old.
right. Yeah,
And
yeah,
does
yeah, yeah.
Chef Kenny still have a place there?
No, he left. We
Oh,
miss him. Like we love Chef Kenny. We love Chef Kenny, man. But it was tough for him because he was not located in a very good area of town.
yeah.
So there was not a lot of traffic for him to sustain that business. His menu was very extensive, but his food was amazing,
Yeah,
amazing,
I know him from Las
amazing.
Vegas. I see him
He
almost every time I go to Las Vegas. He's got two locations there, and he told me he was opening one in Houston, and that was a couple of years ago, and I remember that it opened, but I wasn't sure if it was still going. So no more Chef
yeah
Ken.
he recently closed recently. Sometime this year. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Summertime he closed. So yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
We
I
miss
look
Chef Kenny.
yeah, I look forward to
Yeah.
discovering some of the places when I make it back to Houston, and I really will talk to Karen, and we'll make a plan to visit sometime in the near future, because it would be great to catch up again.
Absolutely.
So Roger, I know you mentioned some sort of a book giveaway or something like that. We'll talk about in a moment, because I think we'll just kind of to wrap up here. So maybe we'll finish with whatever
Yeah.
thoughts you have, because I know you bought a bunch of copies of my book, which I'm very grateful for. You bought a whole bunch
You're
of
welcome.
copies of The Impactful Vegan. I have no idea what you
Yes.
have in mind, so we'll cover that at the end,
Okay.
because I know you mentioned something about highlighting the book today. But I want to ask you, maybe almost
Mhm.
like rapid fire, maybe like really
Yeah.
bunch of questions with really short answer, just to get a bunch of questions at the end here. How would you, so we'll just go right one to the next. So how would you describe your current nutrition program? Like, what do you eat today?
Basic. Basic. So I stay basic: rice, beans, lentils, a lot of greens, and nuts and seeds. Just that's it. That's my. I don't keep difficult. It's just basic.
Yeah.
That's how I keep it.
Do you
Yeah,
eat from the restaurants that are next to you?
I do, but not every time, not every day. I maybe do once every 2 3 months. Like yeah, it's not every time. Because they're amazing. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I can't just eat like that every day. I don't even eat my ice cream every day. Like I had it the first time that I just make sure that my recipes were right.
Yeah.
And then that's it. Like I already know the formula, so I don't have to eat it every day, because now I'm gonna get fat. Like, to be honest.
Speaking of
And that's
that,
not the point.
Speaking
Yeah.
of that, what does your current exercise routine look like as you're in between
Yeah.
competitions? What do you, I mean, are you 5 days a week? Are you 6 days a week? Are you 3 days a week? And free weights? Like briefly, what's your exercise routine?
Yeah, great. So I'm training 3 days, between 3 to 4 days a week. If I can do 4 days a week, great. But at least I get minimum of 3 days. And it's just a split routine, a lot of supersets. I'm not doing super heavy. I'm not doing super heavy these days. So I'm maintaining my weight pretty much. I'm about 215, 6'2", 215. That's where I'm roughly stay. I think maybe every now and then I go 220, but I stay around that same weight. I should literally be 200 pounds. So I'm a little bit over my size for my goal for this summer. For my off season, but I'm okay with it. So I train 3 days a week or 4 days a week, depending on the week. And then the fourth day is cardio and core. And if I can do more than that, that would be great. So, and during the week, my 3 days, I got 1 day I work legs, and then the rest is just split routine, right? Back, shoulders, biceps, and chest.
Okay.
So yeah. So I'll break it down that way. Mm-hmm.
Roger,
mm-hmm.
How do you see the future of the vegan movement? I know that's hard to answer that one briefly. So take an extra minute if you need. But where do you see? I mean, it's been a wild year.
Yeah.
Wild couple years in veganism, good and bad.
Yeah.
Restaurants closing, artificial intelligence, lots of money going into certain industries, growth, and lots of progress, companies moving away from fur and leather and all kinds of things to celebrate. But we also see, unfortunately, a lot of people embracing carnivore and keto and other types of diets where they actually were vegan before, but they're leaving veganism behind. When you reflect on the future of veganism, what do you see?
I see what's going to happen is that more and more people, even though we're getting more people going vegan, we're going to get more people that are going to be like what they call flexitarian. People that are going to be flip-flopping or eating here, eating there. So they're going to reduce the animal consumption, right? And they will dabble with veganism, and then they'll go back here and there. So I see that trending. And I might have a different opinion about it, but since you asked me, I'm not going to go into that episode. But since you're asking me where I see the future, I think there's going to be more people doing that way. They might be like, oh, I'm vegan on Wednesday, or so don't call yourself vegan, but I'm vegan, X amount of time, and then I'll go back to, I need a reboot. So I'm going to see an increase of that, right? Yes, it's less animal consumption, but at the same time, people might say, well, it could be more. But at the same time, I'm going to also see another increase of more people, since the information is still available, turning more into vegan. Now, the advantage of having more people that are flexitarian, for example, is that you can potentially get a percentage of those people that can turn vegan eventually, because they start finding more information. But the other downside is like they can stay there for the long periods of time and never cross over to the other side. So you're gonna see those two things, right? So I see the future more people going flexible with their diet, right? But then we're gonna see a small percentage of people increasing into the vegan lifestyle, because they're gonna see it from influence artists, and it's something that you and I talked about before, artists, and they're gonna see it from athletes and all these different aspects. So they're gonna look at those images, because now we are moving into, if he's doing it or she's doing it, and he's a famous person, that might be a good thing. Or I'm gonna do it. So they follow all these influencers, right? Since something we talk about. So the more that keep increasing, then the more people will gravitate to them, and they're going to try to go in that way. So I'm gonna see a actual. It could be a parallel, or I could see a slightly edge on the flexible people, and then right next to it, or right above that, we'll see more people coming into veganism. That's how I see the future.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Hopefully
really.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what that looks like in the next few years. It is hard to predict, and there's so much changing with food technology innovation, where we might be able to get rid of industrialized factory farms and use cultivated precision fermentation and artificial intelligence and all these new things that make it change really, really fast, and it makes it hard to predict.
Yeah, but the one thing, Robert, is like we're making all those changes in technology, because I have been watching a documentary of Microsoft, Bill Gates, talking about all these things that he helping out to change, like the weather and all these different things that he's creating, all this technology, all the company that he's supporting. But my question always been like, we can have all this technology to make changes in different aspects in the environment, in food. But the people that work in those companies, what is their lifestyle? What is their diet? What is they eating? So it's like the changes, big changes are great, innovative, and we need those. We need big corporations behind all this. But the small changes can start from people, and then the small changes could be like, okay, well, I change the way I eat, I change the way I dress, I change the way I see life. Small changes make big impact. So you have all these companies doing all these things, but the employees, for example, and I'm not blaming them. What I'm saying is like those people. It's like I always use the example of like I used to work for. I used to be when BP had a big issue with the oil spill. Then there was they did spill a bunch of oil right here in Louisiana.
Yeah.
There was a couple of companies I used to work for a team that was helping during that recovery time, and there was a team that were protesting because there was a lot of wildlife and animals in the sea that were dying because of all this spill, right? But all the employees that work in that company, they were asking for chicken and they were eating barbecue. I'm like, wait a minute, you guys are a bunch of hypocrites, right? Excuse my language, because it's like you here fighting this big corporation, and I'm not justifying the corporation's decision, but and the corporation choices, but you here blaming this corporation for this. But here you are. There was a team of like 15 people in that team. Only one guy was eating like vegetarian, and I was vegan back then when that happened. So there's no excuses. So all these people were eating fish, the same fish that they were complaining that they were killing, they were eating it anyway. So for me, like, doesn't make no sense. It's like you go with one hand and protest about one thing, but then on the other hand, you're doing the opposite. So it's not productive. So that's why I always tell people, like, if you're gonna protest about something, it's like if I'm gonna talk about vegan, I have to stand by it. I can't be saying that I'm vegan and then doing some other thing behind the scenes. So that to me, that doesn't, the ethical part is not there.
Yeah. What I got from that and what I wrote down was what you're looking for is people to base their decisions on compassion, accountability, and responsibility from the general public, that us as individual citizens, regardless of innovation in food technology and creativity and advancements and all that, there's a lot of it does come down to our individual shoulders, because we eat 6 times per day if we're in the Western world and we have the affluence and the resources to do that. Every single time we sit down to eat, if we choose compassion, accountability, responsibility for our fellow beings, we make some forward progress, which affects supply and demand and all these things that I wrote about in my book. And you also reminded me of like the oil spill while they're eating animals, while they're trying to save them, or people trying to save straw, not use a straw to save the fish while they're still eating fish. Or what I wrote down was people who are serving chickens at like a dog adoption event, that you see a lot of humane societies. They're there to support cats and dogs, but they're serving up chickens and pigs and cows on menus for fundraisers. You're right. There's hypocrisy there. It doesn't make any sense. There's this juxtaposition there of our value system and our actions. And I think it's okay to call attention to that, because I think a lot of people aren't aware of that. I see it every day. I mean, look what's happening right now. Like as we speak, as you and I are talking, when this is being recorded, there's a hurricane hammering, the state of Florida. And there's a lot of climate related decisions we make with food, with animal agriculture. And there's a lot of people upset about the damage from the hurricane and damage from other, weather related issues or climate related issues. Yet industrialized animal agriculture is one of the biggest contributors to adverse implications for the climate. And yet people are unwilling to change their diet because they want their $5 bucket of chicken, and they want their $3 burger, and they want their $5 large pizza, because that's what they're conditioned to crave. But that's for another conversation. Just final couple questions here, Roger.
Yep.
What does being a plant-powered athlete mean to you?
Man, it means everything, because I have a passion for sport, but for the most part, I have a passion to help people, educate people. And if I use my experience, my knowledge, my own body to kind of help others and see the benefit of going plant-based, going vegan, why not? So this is nothing to do with race, nothing to do with social status. This is nothing to do with, it's just basically being educated, learn, and there's no excuses. So for me, being a plant-based athlete means the world to me. I love fitness, like I mentioned. I always done it, and I always say that animal saved me. I didn't save the animal. When I went vegan, I always say that as well. And then being an athlete, it is it means that I can able to use my own strength to make the world make the difference. I'm in my trailer sometime in my truck, and people say like, "Man, I can't believe you're a vegan." They still ask me. They're still saying those things, right? Because they look at my physique, right? And that was not even my intention. My intention was just to prove that you can do it. Everything else from there is been great. So for me, Robert, I mean, it means everything. It means everything from the fact that I got inspired from guys like you and some other brothers and sisters that I've been doing it for a longer, and they're still doing it. And I just wanted to continue uh, that same momentum. And we had a great run, and we continue doing works in some different way. But for me, the aspect of me training and doing exercise completely changed my life, because I could have been so sedentary and not do anything. But now I found something that I'm passionate. Yeah, you looks good. It benefits you. But at the end of the day, we're giving a bigger message. It's bigger than just working out and having muscle. It's bigger than that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said, Roger. Really, just the last question for you, something for you to think about here, which is kind of a fun question to end on. Uh, Roger, if there was a movie made about your life, what actor would play you?
What actor will play me?
Yeah, a movie
Movie,
about your life.
movie about my life. I would want Denzel Washington to play me, because I think he's so versatile. Like he could play anyone.
Yeah,
Like if he
nice.
had to play, he had to play. I'm. I actually I could say that he could probably be like my uncle or something like that, right? I would say we really have a resemblance, but we can come along and say that. Yeah, it will be him. I would like him to play me if it was a movie, because I think he can definitely showcase all the different stages of my life really well. He can articulate those really well. He can make you have different type of emotions, from crying to laughing. He can move a little bit. He has a little bit of action. He can get greedy with it if he needs to. So he's such a versatile person, and then that simplifies me a little bit. As you can say, we have talked from my beginnings. My life has not always been one thing, right? Even though I'm being in the same place for 20 plus years, I did travel a lot, do a lot of things. So that simplified my life. How I always constant moving, constant changing, constant improving, constant seeing different things, different angles of life. So definitely will be him.
That's awesome. And really, the last thing is where people can find you online, Roger. And then if you wanted to mention
Yeah.
anything about book, some sort of a book offer or giveaway or something. So yeah. So where can we find you online? You've got your podcast, you've got social media, you've got your chilled cocoa. You're out there. Where can we find Roger Smith?
Yeah. So you can find me online. I'm in all the socials, especially on Instagram. I'm more heavy on Instagram. You can find me on Roger A. Smith. You can find me there. Uh, and there I have the links to all my different projects. You can find my podcast is Latin Vegan or Latino Vegano in Spanish, and Latin Vegan is in all the podcast platform, and I also have a YouTube channel that is linked to that same. So I post a lot of the videos. Well, I post all the videos from the podcast. I posted there as well, so you can find it. And at the same time, you can find our ice cream, chill.coco. That's our Instagram. And then we're also on X for the chill coco. And yeah, and if you ever in the Houston area or you want to stop by and visit us. And if just to say hi, we love talking to people. I talk to people every day, which is a beautiful thing. And then I appreciate you, Robert, for having me in this project. I love it.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much,
And the
Roger.
last,
Yeah.
sorry, the last thing is that just to finalize, so I have several copies of Robert Foot, which he personally signed them, and I want to go give those away. So I'm going to do a giveaway in the shop for people that purchase X amount, let's say $25, is you spend $25, you automatically get a ticket. We can put it on a draw, and I'll have Robert pull up a number and read that number to the winner. So you have to keep your copy of your ticket. I don't know if I'm just gonna send the bots to him, mail it to him, or we'll figure it out something else. Or maybe when he comes here, we'll do that. And then the other one is if you purchase, let's say $60 or more, you automatically get a copy of the book with a bunch of other good stuff. You're gonna have T-shirts from the company. You're gonna have a bunch of supplements, a bunch of stuff that we throw in there. So that's gonna be a really great giveaway. So we're gonna start that soon, and yeah. So stay tuned.
Well, Roger, I really appreciate that. That's awesome. And I'm going to make sure I share this with this podcast episode with my friends in the Houston area.
Yep.
And in the plant-powered athlete community and in my vegan bodybuilding and Robert Cheeke community, so that people can go there in person and enter to get the signed book and all the other pieces that come with it by supporting your business, which is what in my book is really geared towards, is lifting up other people who are vegans in this space and supporting other people who have projects, other entrepreneurs, nonprofits, for-profit companies, individuals, and everyone out there who's trying to make a difference in reducing animal suffering. So, Robert, Roger, I want to, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. One more thing that I wanted to say. One of the things that I like to point out is that when I decided to open this business, I wanted to take all the aspect of my lifestyle into it. So you're going to see a piece of it. What I mean with it is like all the utensils that I use are eco-friendly utensils, from the plates to the cups. I use high-grade water, quality water. So everything is recyclable. I go craft paper. Everything is vegan, plant-based, maybe with plant-based material. It's for me, it's not just, and yes, I know it will cost me more, but I don't care. Because for me, I live vegan, right? Vegan is not just me wanting to profit from people. Yes, definitely I have a product, we have a service, we offer something and we get money in return. But at the same time, there's a message that I want to send across to people, right? And then for me, it just doesn't start just with the item that I'm making, but it also start with everything that we use. So everything that I can use vegan and just out there, I utilize it. The cups that I use are craft plant-based material. The spoons that I use are made out of wood. So everything is like catered to that. So I just wanted to make sure that people know that our mission is bigger than that. Sorry about that. Yeah. I just wanted to clear that.
I appreciate you sharing those details, Roger. That's awesome. And I'm really grateful that you take all of those things into consideration and that's important to you and it's important to our planet and for animals. So thank you for taking that step. And also, Roger, just on a personal note, I want to thank you for spending time with me today on the Plant Powered Athlete podcast. I want to thank you for, naming a flavor of ice cream after me and reaching out to me when you were starting your business, and for buying a whole bunch of copies of my book that are signed and in your truck right now that you're offering to other people, and for supporting my work and for agreeing to be on this podcast as soon as I asked you. And so I want to thank you for everything you've done for decades to help animals. And I want to thank you for being an impactful vegan. So this has been the Plant Powered Athlete podcast. I've been Robert Cheeke. This has been Roger Smith. We're so grateful. Please check out the next episode of Plant Powered Athlete podcast coming soon. And I wish you all a wonderful week ahead. So Roger, thank you again. And everyone have an amazing rest of your week.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye, guys.